Well, here we are. It is Friday, October 13th, 2023. And as we say every week, this is the weekly video. We do these every Friday. We try to bring everyone up to date on what's happening in the Asian and Chinese art market, who's selling what prices were realized, things that are coming up that we think will be of interest to collectors and dealers, and all that. And we hope you subscribe to the channel here. If you're not a subscriber already, I know a lot of you are, because we see the statistics every week, and we're up to around 21 and a half or so thousand subscribers, which is pretty great. A couple of things I wanted to mention before we get into things today. Let's see here. First is, as you know, we did this video yesterday, once again, revisiting Eden Auction Galleries down in Georgia, and their miscreant behavior was selling copies, misleading people, and for not insignificant amounts of money. And again, if you have any auctions that you're paying attention to, and they happen to be this auction house, just don't. That's all I can say. You've been warned. I've heard from lots of people who have bought things from them, and every one of them has been very disappointed. And unfortunately, most of the stuff sells to collectors in China and Asia, and they're too embarrassed to take action once they've been defrauded. And that's just the way it goes, unfortunately. And for those of you that are members of the global member pages, don't forget you can watch these videos each week without ads on the global member page on the home page. And before you go browsing around through all these different categories, you can do it. Somebody asked me how come we don't include certain auctions. They've subscribed recently, and what you see on the global member pages are the best things that we can find that are on Live Auctioneers and scattered around the world and on Invaluable. There's not. Most of what's on Live Auctioneers is highly suspect. It's sort of like eBay, where they have 900,000, a million listings in the Asian category, and less than 3% of them are worth looking at. The rest are all copies and fakes, and that just give you some idea of the depth of the copy market on the internet these days. It is astounding, and I keep getting inquiries from people that are finding these amazing rarities on these sites, saying, "Oh, well, this is only estimated $1,000 to $1,500. They normally bring 2 million." Well, if you run into those kinds of things and you've looked and seen what they actually bring, don't think for a second that things like that would slip through on Live Auctioneers, or Invaluable, or any site that has any visibility at all. The best things get found, and if you want to know if an auction house sells a lot of fakes, just go look at their past auctions on Live Auctioneers, and if they seem to have a plethora of an endless supply of rarities, it's because they're all copies. All right, there is a very finite amount of material in the world that is genuine and rare, and they just don't turn up randomly very often. On rare occasion, once a year, something comes into an auction house and they do very, very well with it. That can happen, but it is about as likely to happen as hitting a lottery ticket. All right, that is literally what the math is on that. And also for the Patreon subscribers, the videos are also there to be watched without ads. If you join us on Patreon for $5 a month, you can see that. And as you know, a couple of you have enjoyed the categories we've added. We've put in a section here for some posts, things that we find, and we're going to be adding catalogs and links to catalogs that aren't typically available, and so forth. So if you're a subscriber there, don't forget to take part in that. And if you want to become a Patreon member, you can do so down below. And it goes, all the money from Patreon goes into paying for the sites. And paying for the work that goes into doing the videos and all that sort of thing, because it does cost money, and it absolutely costs money, because we just did our taxes for the year we file on an extension, and it's expensive, but I like doing it. This is why we do it. I do it because I love doing this. It's so much fun. But there is a bill to pay, and all the help we can get is appreciated. So just keep that in mind. That's all. Now, on to what's coming up. There is a sale coming up in a couple of days at Bronx. Let's see here. In 5 days. I want to get the exact date of the auction for you here. Hold on a second. It is on October 19th, the day after the Freeman sale, which is taking place next week. So we did a preview video on. And Bronx, as always, gets good things. They get interesting things. And I'm going to run through just a few of the lots that are in there because I think you'll find them interesting. And there's some very good things because they came from some of them come from a collection that belonged to a member of the Rockefeller family who was a scholar, and they'd all been appraised by Jim Lally years ago. Over 24 years ago, they were appraised, and the appraisal is actually linked on the Bronx site. Bronx is really good about this kind of thing. They back up what they sell, and I've been an admirer of the Bronx operation for a long time. I think they are one of the top auction houses in the United States today. There are many good ones, but I think they're definitely in the top 10. I'm just saying it. They're in Asheville, North Carolina, and I've always found them to be very reliable. So if you've not done business with them, you might think about it. Now, some of the things that are coming up are things like this two-handled bronze censer. They didn't date it. They just said it has a Xuandi Yanji mark on the bottom, which many of them do. But this is a nice late Ming to early Qing incense burner. It's been polished over the years, which is not unusual. You see these, but this is a real one. This is not a copy. It's not a fake. It looks very, very good. I love these lobed forms. There's the interior of it. There's the mark, the stamp into the bottom, and so forth. It's estimated at just $300 to $500. I think it should get well beyond that. It should bring $1,500 to $2,000, but we'll see. But it would represent an awfully good buy for someone if they ended up getting it. The other bronze I wanted to mention. And did I close that window? Hold on a second. I want to go back a little bit. This is just part of my watch list here. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Hold on a second. There it is. This one. This is a really nice lot, and it's already up to $6,000 at Bronx. But these are two Arabic-inscribed incense burners made during the Ming Dynasty. Very nice surface on them, nice condition, beautiful covers, and all this sort of thing. These always bring a lot of money. These always do very well. These things made for the Islamic market. Right now, they're up to $6,000 with 5 bids with 5 days to go. I suspect they're going to bring somewhere in the $8,000 to $10,000 range because it's two of them. I'm not sure why they lumped them together. They should have sold them separately. But this was a 2-for-1 deal. Really nice examples. And I love the lid that they got for this one. This is a very, very nice lid. So do check that out. And then moseying along to here, there's a nice Kangxi looking rouleau vase, estimated at $3,000 to $5,000. It's already got a bid at $1,500. It should go beyond that. It should go a good bit beyond that. It's got a beautiful looking glaze. Love the fan panels and the leaf form panels on it. The bottom of it looks fine. The decoration, the cobalt, all looks very, very nice. And there's the base to it. It looks absolutely fine to me. Estimated at $3,000 to $5,000. I expect it'll bring somewhere in the $8,000 to $10,000 range. And if it doesn't, again, it's a great buy. Really nice thing. Now these things are amazing. If you live in the Asheville area, because you got to get these things shipped. These are big. They are 5 feet tall, a pair of stands, and what it looks like. And I had wanted to call Bronx and ask them about these, because what it looks like this upper section is a Chinese thing. All right, and it's beautifully done, beautiful reticulated lattices, 19th century, that sort of export lacquer you see on it almost has a brownish surface to it, done during the first half of the 19th century, probably in the Daoguan period, somewhere around there. These are just spectacular display stands. There's 2 of them. The upper sections are very, very interesting. Here are the bottom sections. Now, I'm not sure if this part is Chinese. This is the thing I've been wondering about. If you call them and ask them, do these appear to be made of Chinese wood and Chinese workmanship, or are these made in Europe in the chinoiserie style and then added to the stands, added to the brackets, because they are absolutely striking. I think these are just great, very gutsy. Wonderfully done. And the reason I think they were put together was that if you look at the backs, you have to always do a little detective work with furniture. Those of you that collect furniture know this, and you'll notice that the backs of these around on the base are all gilded, and then the upper section is not gilded. This is all sort of in the same, it's all dark wood, so to speak. So I'm wondering if they didn't marry these upper sections, these brackets to this base, because they have a look to them that makes me think they're probably European, but I'm not positive, and I haven't handled them in person, obviously, because I'm not in Nashville. But if you're looking for two of the greatest display stands you're ever going to see for your Chinese objects, actually for any object, you could put modern glass on these things; they'd look great. But if you've been looking for a great pair of stands for your house to go in the corners, they're corner stands. They're meant to go in the corners of a living room or a dining room or a library or something like that. These are it. These are absolutely it. They're 60 inches tall, which is 5 feet. They have good height to them, nice big display areas, graduating upwardly. They're only estimated at $2,500 to $4,000. And if these sell for under 8 or 10,000, I'm going to call them. They're going to be the bargain of the week next week when we do the auction results. I'm going to come back and see how they did. These are fantastic stands. Very good, really, really great. I love them. And then also in the sale is this miniature robin's egg blue glaze miniature vase. It measures just 6 inches tall, wonderfully glazed. Beautiful glaze. You can almost feel the blue glaze flowing down over it. It's got rather well-shaped handles, I think. Nice pear-shaped body, tapering into that little tiny foot that flares out. Wonderfully potted porcelain. Here it is. And they were sold by Anita Gray in London, who's a very, very well-known dealer. These certainly look to be 18th or early 19th century. How did they date? They dated them as Qin Lung. And if Anita Gray dates them as Qin Lung, then they're 18th century. It's as simple as that. She was a phenomenal dealer. It's estimated at $1,500 to $2,000, which I think is very reasonable. Don't be surprised if these bring $3,000 to $5,000. But it's a very, very nice vase. It's not a copy. This is what a real one looks like. I like it a lot. If Anita had it, you know it's good. All right, and then over to this, a really attractive. If you've always wanted to own, maybe if you just want to own one piece of Yangshao or early Chinese pottery, this is a great little example. And this is one of the ones that came from this collection that I mentioned at the beginning. The collection of the late Max Lohr, who was a famous Asian art scholar, collector. I believe he wrote numerous books. And it ended up in the Abbey Aldrich Rockefeller, who was the professor of Oriental art at Harvard in 1960, and then it's passed down through the family ever since. And there is a link to the appraisal that was done by Jim Lally over 24 years ago. When it was the Max Lohr collection. This piece was bought from the Crane Gallery, another highly regarded Asian art dealer. So you have all the information you need, all the confirmation you need about authenticity, because often there are copies of these pieces obviously floating around in the market. This is a real one. It measures about 4.5, almost 5 inches tall and a little over 5.5, 3/4 inches wide. It looks like it's in nice condition, very nice finish on it, nice patina, very thinly potted around the top, as you can see. This is a nice looking piece. I like it a great deal. And there's the bottom of it, completely legit. And it's estimated at only $300 to $500, which I think is very, very low. It should do much better than that. But it is the real thing, and it's just a great form shape for a piece that's several thousand years old. It was made around 2000 BC. So at this point in time, it's 20. What does that bring it out to? About roughly 4,000 years ago. So it's a heck of a thing. And then on to this. If you're a Kutani buyer, I know there's a bunch of Kutani buyers out there. There's this vase, and they had listed this as I don't think they listed it as Kutani. I wrote and told them. I said, "This is a beautiful piece of Kutani. It's a big jar." This is a great big jar with a wave pattern all over it and the dragons coming up out of it. The gilding looks terrific. It's in very nice condition all the way around. And the potting is wonderful. It's magnificent potting. The scale and proportion of the pot itself is so well done. It's so well done. And it's a pretty good sized pot. It measures 18 inches tall, it's 16 inches in diameter. It was apparently property from Thompson House, Fifth Avenue, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Apparently, it was in a historic house out in that part of the world, and it was gifted to Chatham University in Pittsburgh at some point. And this is a great thing, really is. If you like Katani, you might want to get it. It has a very elaborate signature on the base. It has everything going for it. You can look up the signature and figure out which potter did it. But this is a very, very attractive piece. It's probably Edo period from what I can see. The estimate I think is very, very reasonable, $600 to $900. It should do. It's already up to $550, and I suspect it's going to bring $1,500 to $2,000. But if you've been looking for the Uber Kutani big pot, this is it. This is a beast of a pot. Very big, very heavy for Kutani. But a great example nonetheless. Absolutely great. Love the color. Love the color of it. And then the seated figure. Now, when I first saw this, I thought it was one of the little ones. Often they made these, and they were only maybe 8 or 9 inches tall. This one is 19 inches tall. It's a late Qing, the Republic example of a Luohan sitting on the back of a water buffalo, obviously, and it's got that matte black glaze on it. This is a beautiful example, and the facial aspects of this is absolutely cosmic looking, and I love the beard and the eyes, the downward cast eyes, and the crown on his head. This is a really wonderful piece of porcelain. If you've been looking for one of these, Republic late Qing Republic pieces, these figures that seem to be very popular these days, I would go for this one over a lot of the standing figures that you see. The details are exceptional on this. This was made by a very, very good potter. It's very, very good. There's a tiny bit of wear to some of the enamels on that side. That's why they showed that. But that's about it. Other than that, it's a wonderful thing. And there's the underside of it. That's not damage under there. That's just where they didn't apply glaze all the way under the belly of the beast, so to speak. So it's worth looking at. And then last is this, a really nice aquamarine carving of a recumbent hound. And this was part of that same lore collection, Abbey Aldrich Rockefeller business. It's in the appraisal. It dates to the, well, I don't know if they dated this. It looks like it's probably late Ming to early Qing. They call this 19th century. Okay, so it's late Qing, but it's still beautiful carving. Great detail. It looks like it might be a little older than that to me, than late 19th century, as a matter of fact, judging by the style of the carving. But the stone is pretty. It's a very, very pretty carving, and estimated at $1,500 to $2,500. It's got a $750 bid on it. I think Jim appraised this 25 years ago for $1,500 or so. So expect it to get up there. So if it reaches 3,000 or 4,000, it doesn't make it a bad deal. It just makes it more desirable in some ways. But it's a heck of a thing. I really like that. I love the color. That wonderful aqua blue color. God, that's pretty. So pretty. And you don't see it often. You don't see aquamarine very often in Chinese carvings, but they did do them. They did pendants with them as well. All right, now over to, and there's a bunch of stuff on the global page. I just wanted to mention that because I'm always happy to see what Bronx gets. Many of you remember they had that wonderful auction about 10 months ago of the miniature collection of porcelains that were so interesting. They did very well. But at any rate, enough of that. Now, moving along. These are some of the results from last week. We had mentioned the peach with the open figure, with the Shaolu figure on it, and that there's a nearly a very similar example that was estimated. It was a little bit finer. The enameling was a little better on it. That was in the Getty collection that's coming up over at I guess at Christie's. But this happened to come up at the same time. The one at the Christie's sale is estimated at 3,000 to 5,000 or so. This one it isn't quite as great, quite as really fine, but it was very, very good, very nice, and it ended up doing quite well. It ended up bringing $916, which is pretty good. It's a little under what I thought it might bring. I think I said 1,000 to 1,500. It went for a little under that, but not much. But this was a nice thing. That was a very, very nice thing. And then over here to this is sort of a bargain of the week. A pair of Kangxi Amari dishes. Well, one is the shell form, the scallop shell form dish, and the other one over here is part of a sweetmeat set that fits in. They would fit them into the boxes. This one had a repair or something. The one on the left had some sort of little repair to it or something, but the other one was absolutely perfect. And it's funny how if one is slightly damaged, it seems to kill the whole lot. I'm not sure quite why. And the damage on this one obviously isn't that noticeable because you can't see it. That one has a little fritting along the edge there. That's not bad. Somebody picked up both of them for $62.29. This was being sold by Migolari, a dealer in the UK we cover all the time because he's always sourcing out good things. I think that was an absolute steal. $62.29 for both of them. Kangxi Amari. All right. So, I always say leave a bid. Leave a bid. And these kinds of things happen, and it's very interesting when they do because people will later say, "Oh, I would have paid $200 for it." Well, then put a bid on it, buy it. All right, now on to this: the jade cricket and it's mutton fat jade or Huncheon jade as they call it, popular these days. It's mutton fat jade. That's all it really is. And there it is. This was a nicely carved piece. Beautiful little detail, nicely polished. I thought this was a great little object. And cricket and pod pendant. And ended up doing pretty well. It sold for $1,262, but worth it. This was a nice thing. It certainly did appear to be 18th century. And then over here to this wildly decorated skirt. This is one of the most intensely decorated skirts I've seen in a long time. I thought it was great. A very vibrant, very festive. It's not muted. This thing has been kept out of the sun, and this is what they look like originally. Some people think the muted ones are how they were meant to look. No, this is what Chinese silks were meant to look like. They were meant to be very bright, very exciting, really give your eyes something to look at, and superbly decorated. This thing had some very nice work in it. And there's a phoenix in this one, all this groundwork. Just a beautiful example. It had this pretty standard, blue liner. This one, obviously, it looks like it had been worn at some point because there's a little bit of wear on the inside, but the outside of it looked perfect. And this is a late Qing example and ended up doing very, very well. It brought $3,069. And that's the difference when you have a really great one. They always say, well, the skirts only usually bring $300 to $500. That's true. Most of these skirts bring $300 to $500, $400 to $600, somewhere in that range if they're not ripped or something. This is the typical price. But when you get one that's this colorful and this exciting and this interesting looking, when they come off like this, expect them to do very, very, very well. And it may help you out there if you're looking around and you go to an antique shop and somebody has one of this quality and they have it priced at $800. Some people might instantly say, well, he's asking way too much for it. No, he's not. He's actually underpriced it by $2,200. So always keep that in mind. Always look for the very vibrant, the beautiful examples, not the gaudy stuff from the 20s and 30s that they sold to the tourists, but the 19th century examples with lots of work in them and lots of good color and all the indications of age that you need to see. Learn about that. All right. The silver box. This was a very nice silver box. Sort of low relief work on it. There's the back of it. It's got a stamp on it. I didn't look it up. I probably should have gone over to the yellow book on the bookcase and looked it up. But this is a beautifully done box. Probably second half of the 19th century or mid-19th century. Fantastic. The relief work on it in some areas, when I first looked at this down here, the way the flowers were done, I thought maybe it was almost Indian looking, but the front of it is very Chinese. So, because in India they did some spectacular silver work, as many of you know, but this one was nice too. I really really liked this, and the collectors liked it too. $1,375, and it's not an enormous box. It's 4 inches, 5 inches long, 4.5 inches, 5 inches long, and 3 inches wide. So it's fairly small, but very good detail, very fine quality. And the same seller had something else up. I forget what it was. It brought more money, but I just happened to like the box better, so I'm talking about that instead. And then this, I was hesitant to put this in the newsletter page for one reason. This is clearly not a Daoguan vase. It just isn't. But it is a very, very good example of late Republic ware, beautifully enameled. I just thought it was a nifty example, and I figured at this point most of the people who use the newsletter page know that this type of vase is never from the Daoguan period, but it's very, very finely painted. There's lots of facial expression, good shading of colors. Look at the eyes, the way the face is done, the raised brows, all the little details, very authentic looking as far as facial expressions go, and everybody liked it. And it had the Zhentengzi mark on the bottom, which you find often on these pieces, and they just called it superiority, quality, and state vase. I don't know what that means even. And it wasn't made in 1821 to 1850. It was made during the 20th century, but outstanding quality, and it was quite large. It was 12.99 inches tall. I don't know why they didn't just say 13. It would have been reasonable to say, but 13 inches tall for one of these is pretty good. And I think this was a very, very nice buy, and it appeared to be in good condition. And then over to this, a nice export period chocolate pot, Yongchen period, very well-known type. And I've noticed these chocolate pots have become very reasonable. These used to sell for $1,500 to $2,500 all day long, and now they creeped under $1,000 a few years ago, and you can pick them up. And these are fairly rare. That's the interesting thing, is that you have Yongchen plates, a dish which is much more common, that will have very, very similar pattern and coloring on it. And it's just a dish, which they made lots of, are much, much more common. And they'll sell for $600 to $700. And here you get a side handle teapot or chocolate pot from 1730, roughly 1735, and it went for $711. It looked like it overall in good condition. See descriptions. And I don't understand that thing, because it used to be if you had a dinner plate out of a set, for example, and it was a 9-inch plate, it would have a certain value because there were lots of 9-inch plates in that dinner service, but maybe only one or two charges. And we often talk about charges, the big plates, the 13, 15-inch, 17-inch plates. They bring much, much, much more, because out of an entire service, there'd be maybe two chargers, but there might be a couple of dozen 8, 9-inch, 10-inch plates. So they're worth a lot less because there were many more of them in a factor of 10 being made. So you always think of them as being more desirable if they're bigger. And the same goes with teapots, side handle teapots out of a big service. They've had one of these in the whole service. And it's a figural piece, and I don't know why, but these chocolate pots are become a relative bargain, sort of like the pistol-handled urns that used to bring so much money, and now you can buy them for $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000. And when they used to sell, back when the American furniture and the furniture boom, brown furniture was selling so well, they would get $6,000, $7,000 for a pair of those urns, to $8,000 even. All right, and then over to this very nice. I had several inquiries about this plate. We did have it on the newsletter page. I liked it a lot. I liked the coloring of it. I liked the pattern. I liked all of it. And it was sold originally by Eleanor Gordon, who was one of America's premier. She was one of the really first sort of groundbreaking American dealers who handled China trade, and she wrote a book on it. Many of you have the book, I'm sure. It became sort of a standard reference on the topic. She was an awfully nice lady. I knew her. I used to see her at the Ellis show in Boston, and I would run into her in New York at the East Side show. She was the old dame of the Chinese porcelain world, but she was always very encouraging. And I wish there were more dealers like her around today. If you walked into Eleanor Gordon's booth and showed interest, even if she didn't think you could afford anything in there, because she was kind of pricey, she was very proud of her prices, and she made a lot of money in the business. But she also did a lot for the business and interest in the subject, and she was always take time to talk to you. And it didn't matter whether you were a major buyer or somebody she'd never seen before in a pair of sandals and blue jeans. She didn't care. If you were in her booth, you were her guest, and she treated you like one. And she worked in the business, I think, into her early 90s. She really, really loved the business, and she surfaced and brought to the market and drew focus to some great Chinese porcelain during her long career. And this was something she had sold. All right, and I just there are certain people in the Asian art community that I've gotten to know, or I knew. Actually, matter of fact, my mother bought stuff from Eleanor Gordon when she would be in Boston at the shows. My mother liked her a lot. Um, this was a terrific plate in any event. I have digressed considerably here. Any rate, very, very attractive plate, beautifully done, nice color palette, very pleasing color palette, gold rim. I love that color blue. It's one of my favorite blues that they used on the rim with this lattice pattern over it. And you have the figure sitting at the table and the boy carrying a duck. I think that's awfully cute. And it ended up going for $775. Now, this wasn't an enormous bowl. It was let's see, it was 6 inches, it was almost 6 inches, 5 7/8 inches in diameter. It was basically like a large saucer, but outstanding quality. They dated to around 1775. And then last, this hasn't sold yet, but I wanted to include it because it's going to do well. I'll come back and revisit and see what it did. But this was on the newsletter page. This is a really nice 19th century court robe. Looks to be from the work. It looks like it's probably from the mid 19th century. Very good condition. A little wear around the collar, which you do want to see. And it had somewhat of a quilted interior, but beautiful work. This is really, really good silk work, and I think it's going to do well at the end. I suspect it'll bring 12 to 14,000 by the time it's done. We've had a few of these over the years, and that's what we've gotten for them. And this is an awfully nice one, I have to say. Love the cuffs on the end of this, the hoof cuffs on the end of the sleeves. Beautiful example. And I'll come back next week. We'll see how that one did. And then coming up, let's see. One of the things speaking of fakes, we're sort of on a roll with fakes. I wanted to come back over here. This is Woolworths down in Rhode Island. They are still selling lots of fakes. Just don't go near them until they get their act together. They have refused to get their act together, apparently, and they're still taking in fakes of 18th century plates, fakes of Ming pieces, and so forth. Be extremely careful. They're getting some pretty good money for these things, and these people are all going to be horribly disappointed someday if they ever go to sell them. $1,572, $280 for this little pear-shaped vase. That vase is brand new. And so on. And I want to walk through these a little bit to maybe help some of you that aren't that familiar with these. But this is a very nicely potted vase. Okay, looks pretty good. The glaze doesn't look quite right, and the shape's a little bit off, but it's pretty good. But when you flip it over and you see this bottom, this is what a bottom of a fake looks like. It has that greenish tone that you do see on some Kangxi pieces, but no crackle. And you notice how the bubbles are so thick on the bottom of this thing because they had a tendency to overglaze the bases. The script marks are all sort of out of focus because there's so many layers of bubbles on here. And there's the foot rim. And that's the foot rim of contemporary clay. And what they do is they rub a little bit of crud on there to give it a little brown spots and so forth. But you don't want to see that. You should see a very nice white paste. You should see a few irregularities in the trimming, and you should see an iron oxide line running along there, especially if it's brown glazed. And here you have that green effect that's caused by excessive glaze, but all these bubbles, this thick sea of bubbles. You do not want to see that. You do not want to see that. And that right away tells you all you need to know that this is a piece that's been made within the last 10 years or so, probably. All right. And the same thing goes for this dish. This plate did pretty well. It brought $698. Obviously, it's not chin lung. It's got a chin lung mark on it. And when you flip this one over, what you see is these light, sort of stainy, muddy areas around here. You don't ever want to see those on the bottom of a porcelain like this. That's like something they also did on the fakes to make them look old. They look like they're from an old porcelain. Glaze does not turn yellow underneath over time. It doesn't age. It should be as white today as it was when it was made, especially if it was only made in the 18th century. This bowl is brand new. This is a brand new porcelain, and again, you see that sort of tannish staining around the inside here. You really want to look for that. This muddy look. That's not something you want to see ever on an old piece of porcelain. All right, you don't want to see it. And then when you look at the details up close, if you've seen enough of these border decorations, you know that the colors are no good. Here you can really see the staining on the inside showing up here, and then you have these sort of amateurishly drawn flowers and vines and vases and so forth. Look at them very carefully, though. When you look at them, when you see authentic pieces, study how the enamels are applied, study the colors, the visual effect of those colors, and then when you look at a thing like this, these will look absolutely dead to you. They'll look like dead decorations. At any rate, this brought some poor souls out $700 for this bowl that isn't worth $25. And that's very disappointing. And the same thing happened here with this charger that went for $1,500. Kengshi marked. They did make this. This is a style that they made, lots of, and they're very rare. But this is a total fake. All right. Right off the bat, the script is too small. And then when you come over here to look at the edge, that's not an iron oxide line. That's dirt that's been applied to it to make it look old. All right. And it's the little bit, and there's that discoloration again, that sort of ivory brownish discoloration that they add to the glaze to make it look old. All right. These pieces are made intentionally to deceive people. They're not, honest later reproductions they were emulating it. These were made to fool people because they added the dirt and the grunge to it. And this is just totally wrong. And again, were it authentic, it would have brought 20 or 30,000, 40,000, $40,000, somewhere around there. This one brought 1,572. So it's a $50 dish in China, and here it brought 1,572, and that's why they sell them, because it's a quick buck, but it hurts people. All right, okay, I'm done. I'm done with my rant. All right, now over to what's coming up. Josh Chamberlain, Juice 1499, has got some stuff up. They'll be on the newsletter page. Some interesting things, actually. This was something that really caught my eye. Is very unusual. If you like silks and textiles and garments and so forth, you've seen these before, these hanging tassel things. But usually these panels are of silk. And in this case, they're carved wood and painted. There they are. This is not woven, obviously. So you have the silk hanging from them, the tassels hanging from them, but you have these very nice painted, beautiful colors, and in good shape. This is a 19th century tassel set with all these wonderful little hanging beads off of it. Some of them are probably glass. I suspect there might be a couple of hard stones, might be a legitimate pearl thrown in or two, but don't depend on it. It's for a look. It's for a dress appearance. But this is a very nice, very, very nice pendant, beautifully carved. I think the panels alone are great. This one is done with archaistic dragons on it. They're all a little different. Each one's a little bit different than the other. So far, it's up to $71. These close on Monday. And if you like early stuff, this I think should bring $1,000 to $1,500. This is a pretty great looking thing, and it's large. It's 36 inches. It's 3 feet tall from top to bottom, so it'll be a terrific thing to hang on a wall. If you buy it, though, get it framed. Have it dropped into a shadow box to get the air off of it, because the silk does age over time, obviously. If you're not going to keep it folded up in a drawer and take it out on special occasions, and you want to hang it, have it put into a shadow box frame and under UV glass, and don't hang it in any direct sunlight. It'll raise hell with that silk. But boy, what a nifty thing. That's a nifty thing. And then this, he also has up this, a nice big pair of rose mandarin jars. They're over about 24 inches tall. They've had some restoration to them, but they still look awfully good. Here are the bottoms, mid-19th century, first half of the 19th century. There's some in-painting and whatnot, but they sure display well. And these big jars often, very rarely are they ever actually always perfect. Usually the lids are glued back together and there's a hole in the bottom, because people use them for all kinds of things. But these are quite nice. These are quite nice. And I think the scenes are interesting, with the horses especially, and the people walking around, he's hanging something on a tree, that kind of thing. I love that. They're up to $880. They should bring $4,000 to $6,000. I would think. We've seen them bring more, but with the restoration, expect them to bring a little less, 3 to 5, 4 to 6,000 for the pair. But they're very, very attractive. And then now over to this. This is not Juice. This is another seller we came across. Not somebody we're that familiar with. Cherupak Antiques. They're in New York, in Buffalo. And they have this wonderful flambe glaze vase. There's the bottom of it. But I love the glaze. I just absolutely love the glaze on this. I think it's beautifully done. The piece just glows. Very, very nice. It appears to have some a chip or a bite or something out of the footrim here. Probably happened when they took it out of the kiln. It is a pretty big pot. They've dated it as well. It's interesting. They call it Qinlong Qing Dynasty, mid-19th century. It obviously can't be Qinlong if it was made in the mid-19th century. I think they probably meant to say Qinlong style, mid-19th century. And it could be early 19th century. It's 30 centimeters tall. It's a foot tall. It's a good sized pot, but it's a very satisfying shape and beautiful color. Really, really like that. And then over to this, just a reminder, the Astor pattern Kangxi dish is closing in 2 days on Sunday, in case you forgot or you didn't bookmark it. Nice looking thing. And then Josh has this up, and this has gotten very little interest. I'm not quite sure why. It appears to be sort of a slightly off-white but orange sepia decorated mid-19th or 1830, 1840s vase. It was made into a table lamp at one point in its life. That's why it has the hole in the bottom. But it's an awfully nice looking vase. Beautiful colors. There it is. There's the front of it. And it is up to what? $38. It closes Monday. I don't understand that price at all. It's just a hair under 13 inches tall, 12.75 inches in height. So it's a good size vase. And, if the hole in the bottom bothers you, just get it fixed. It costs $50 to get that hole filled. You could probably do it yourself if you want to use it as a flower vase. Just mix up some epoxy and fill it and smooth it out from the inside and just do a nice, neat job of it. Any rate, it's up to only $38. This should bring $500 to $700, $400 to $600, somewhere around there. So I think it's got a ways to go, but this is the kind of thing you go over and hit it with a bid, okay? And you may get it. You may get a bargain. And then the Ming Dynasty pottery vase. The guy has the original receipt and card for it and all that stuff. Henry Stern Antiques in New Orleans, famous antique shop, circa 1500. That's sort of cool, but it's nicely done. Probably done at Schwann, the Schwann kilns. They did a lot of this kind of stuff. This is a nice one. It's good color, nice color blue. It's only up to $20. It closes Sunday. It should do better than that. Looks like maybe it was made into a table lamp at one point, or maybe not. I don't know. It looks like it was probably a lamp. But this is a good thing. If you like Ming ceramics and you like funky country wares, this is a good one. And it's up to only $20. Closes Sunday. It should bring $300 to $400, but we'll see. And then the Buddha, one of these big Republic period porcelain Buddhas. I haven't seen a good one in a while. This is a good one. Nicely stamped on the bottom. That's what the bottom of these look like. If you look at them up close, you can often see the cloth marks from where they potted them. Because when they potted these, they would form them on tables, and they had to put a cloth under them. Otherwise, the suction would get stuck to the table. So they put cloth there, and then they can lift the piece and peel the cloth off, and it would leave an cloth pattern on the bases. But this is nice. It's got that sort of brickwork back. We used to call them all the brickbat Buddhas. And there he is. He's got a very nice face, very jolly fellow. And this was a pretty good size one, as you can tell by the Coke can. This is a big one. What is it, about 13 inches tall or so, 12, 13 inches? 26 inches tall, so it's about 10 inches tall. Okay. Looked a little bigger than that in the picture. It's up to $775. Typically, these bring $1,500 to $2,000. We'll see, but it's a nice one. So if you've been looking for one that's an old one, this is one from about 1915 or 1920. It's a good looking Buddha. And then this happens to be another piece that was sold by Eleanor Gordon. It's got her stamp on the bottom, and there are 3 plates with the same pattern, with the hawk pattern on them. But I love the border decoration on this bowl. Very, very European in its feeling, but it's actually Chinese work. But lovely, lovely decoration. And the gilding on it all looks to be perfect. It's a late 18th century example, 1790, according to the seller. It's about right. I suspect he's got the paperwork from Eleanor when she sold this. It closes on Monday. It's up to $127. It's not a huge bowl. This isn't a big punch bowl. It's a, let's see, how tall is this? 7 inches in diameter. But it's a sweetly done piece of porcelain. And it looks like it's in good shape all the way around. The gilding is in remarkable condition. Consider how much gilding is on there, and if you just touch this stuff with ammonia or Windex, it's going to strip off all that gilding, and it seems to be pretty complete. I'm sure there are areas of wear to the gilding, there always is, but that's pretty good. And it's up to just $127. And then this is another piece that Josh put up, this jade pendant. Looks like it came off the end of a ruby scepter. There's the back panel. That's obviously later. There's some sort of a mutton fat jade plaque, flower lotus blossom release. This is the inventory list out of some estate. I'm not sure who it is. Better read it. No, it's actually an old printout of an auction. It's an old auction printout list. Anyway, this is a nice piece of jade. Notice the way the lotus leaves are curling over, how they do that very three-dimensionally, and down below, and the ascending bird, the way the wings are cut and the body is polished, and all that. It's a swallow. Just beautifully done. And this lotus over here is nicely done too. This is a good piece of jade. Very pretty. Probably 18th century. I don't think he dated it. Did he date it? It was bought in a single collection back in the 1940s. If you purchased in the 1950s, does not come with something else or some other pieces with it or something. But anyway, it's up to $550. I figure this will probably bring $2,000 to $3,000, but it's awfully nice. It's an awfully nice piece of jade. If you're looking for a good piece of jade, that's probably it. And he also has got this up, a very nice, love this, pink ground, Japanese cloisonné vase with a bird on it. Beautiful example. Very, very, very just plain pretty. It's up to 150, probably gonna go up to about 3 or 4 times that amount at the end. And then the little porcelain figure of an attendant carrying a basket. Now he has this listed as Blanc de Chine, I think. I don't think it's Blanc de Chine. I've seen these before, and when you look up inside of them, they're not made of Blanc de Chine porcelain. This could be Blanc de Chine. I'm not saying it can't be, but I suspect it's white glazed porcelain from Jingdezhen. It doesn't make any difference. It's awfully pretty. It's very well done, and it's all ready to go as a lamp. That would make a great lamp for your house, and it's in very good condition. Notice the handles of the baskets aren't damaged. The hair coming down is okay. The facial expression is very, very nice. It's like he's calling out someone. He's calling out someone to say, "I've got the basket," and I like this a lot. It's a very nice piece of porcelain. Very pretty, very graceful. And right now it's up to $152. It should go way beyond that. It should go $800 to $1,000 by the time this is over. If it goes for under it, it's a terrific buy. Very, very nice. And then this just popped up this morning. It's a one of these crack bowls, Wanli period bowls. This is pretty good size, as I recall, right? Yeah, 14 inches in diameter. It's got some restoration to it, but these bowls always seem to have restoration to it. You may recall that the Robert Keim sale that they just finished at Drew Eats the other day. Many of you looked at it. He had a couple of these bowls in that sale, and they were all restored. These bowls were very, very prone to cracking and chipping because they were used. These were used, and if you look at old Dutch paintings from the 17th century and the early 18th century, you'll see these bowls in paintings, European paintings, all the time with fruit in them, sitting on the table between people seated, often with a beautiful Persian rug used as a table cover. That was sort of a tradition they did. They didn't like to put them on the floor; they put them on tables, just be sort of an elegant thing to rest things on. And these bowls were used all the time to hold fruit and vegetables and whatnot. And this one is very nicely decorated. Here you have it with European houses on the interior, and then Chinese figures around it, and these very elaborate tulip devices and vines and everything else. These are nice. This one's all. It's got 5 days to go. It's up to $36. Expect it to bring 12 to 1800 minimum. Could bring 2500. With the restoration. I don't know how much the restoration is, but it's certainly worth a lot more than $36. If you could buy that bowl for $36, you got a deal. So go in and whack it. It'll be on the newsletter page this week. And then lastly is this Republic period planter. Very nice with its under tray, which is almost a miracle. These planters turn up on the market all the time. But not all the time. They turn up fairly often, and they never have their under trays. This one still has its under tray, nicely enameled, 1915 to 1930. It's got a hairline in the body and a chip. There it is. I didn't see that before. Take that into account. That's all. That's actually a pretty easy fix because it's just white porcelain. If you buy this, you can get it repaired pretty easily. It's still going to do well. I love the praying mantis on it. It's up to $550 with the chip, and expect it to get up to $1,000 to $1,200. If it wasn't chipped, it would probably bring $2,000, $2,500. But where the chip is, it's in an area that's pretty easy to fix. And these days they can do unbelievable repairs, so always keep that in mind. And just as an aside, sort of a point of pride here, this newsletter this week will be the 500th volume. That's how long we've been doing it. Last week was $4.99. This week will be 500, and it's a bit of a milestone. And I can't believe it's lasted this. We're still doing it. We started doing this a few years ago, back I don't know, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, or something. I forget when it was, and we just thought, well, we'll do these and we'll see if people enjoy it. And now it's become a thing, so to speak. And this is last week's newsletter page. As you can see, as I mentioned, there was a lot more on here than there have been in some of the previous weeks, especially during the summer when everybody's goofing off. But these are the things that we found on eBay that we put in here, and we check them pretty carefully, make sure they're okay. And that's it for the week. All right. But 500th, how about that? Hard to believe. Anyway, here we are. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next week with more videos. I think we're all caught up on the inquiries for the week pretty much. I'll check before the day's over. And thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And to those of you that subscribed this week to the global member pages and the Patreon page, thank you. Okay? Thank you very much. All right. Have a great weekend and see you all again. All right. Bye-bye.